Welcome to Subramani. When we talk of wealth management for doctors, and largely it could be salaried doctors or doctors in their own practice, we talk of four different things. One, we talk of making money in the market. When I say market, I mean in markets like equity markets, debt markets, mutual funds, all those largely publicly available assets which anybody could buy. It could even be lending money, it could be leasing, it could be peer-to-peer lending, all those things which are publicly available. Second, there is his own private practice which is in which he can invest. Third is of course real estate, and fourth is more esoteric assets which are available like PMS or venture capital funding or angel funding and things like that. Largely these are four areas in which their monies can be invested. And another very important part is personal financial planning. Knowing how much to put in each of these and what kind of documentation to make, how to make a right will, and how to create a living will, all those kind of things, ensuring that the names are properly recorded in all the asset classes, and their PAN card, Aadhaar card, bank statements, income tax return filing, etc. All this is part of the personal financial planning. These are the assets and this is the personal financial planning. So when we talk about wealth management for doctors, we talk about, very importantly, we talk about the proper documentation. We also talk about what the doctor should concentrate is, of course, asset allocation, costs, and tax efficiency. These are basically three things. For example, investing in a liquid fund or an ultra short bond fund instead of keeping money in a bank deposit. This sounds like a very simple thing, but not all doctors are able to do it, right? So what happens is you are able to defer taxes over 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and therefore you pay much less taxes. Is this part of the market? Yes, it is part of the market. However, it is very important that the fifth leg that we spoke about, the personal financial planning, where the doctor knows how much to put in equity, how much to put in debt, and those kind of things, which is asset allocation and the cost of doing all this. The doctor has to just concentrate on that. He cannot really afford to sit and decide which share to buy and which share to hold, because it's okay, it gives a tremendous pleasure in trading and saying I made so much money, but it's a full-time job. Most physicians and surgeons that I know, when I say doctors, I mean everybody, right from a dentist to a physiotherapist to a neurosurgeon, or everybody. For me, doctors means all of this, the whole gamut. All these people don't really find time to do this on a full-time basis of seeing what share to buy and what share to sell. And even if they do, they don't do it very efficiently, and if they were to do it very efficiently, their practice would suffer. It's very difficult to combine wealth management, active wealth management and practice, and do well in both. Of course, there are doctors who do well in both, but we are talking of normal doctors who have a longish practice of say 10 hours a day, plus they have to have their social life. Will they be able to find enough time and the willingness to make money in the direct equity markets? The answer seems to be very difficult. Therefore, it is necessary that they find a very good financial advisor very quickly in life. Maybe when they are 30 or 32, when they have just started earning, when they have decided to set up their own private practice or buy somebody else's practice, how it should be compensated, how it can be structured. Right from there, where they will require a chartered accountant to a personal financial planner who will tell them how much to put in equity, how much to put in debt. Right. For example, a doctor who is in service has a job which is reasonably secure. Very unlikely that the doctor will lose his job. Of course, he can, but largely his job is secure. Job being secure means he could invest more in equity, vis-a-vis a doctor who is starting out on his own practice. He needs to invest more in debt instruments simply because his practice itself is like equity. right? There will be fluctuation in his income. There won't be much of income happening in the first few years, right? So to compensate for all those lean periods, he will have to have some kind of a bank balance where he can dip into in case there is an emergency, in case he has to pay for some equipment which has failed, or his car that has failed, he has to replace the fridge in the house. Any of those things could require some emergency funding, so he needs to keep more money in liquid and ultra short bond fund and things like that, so that in case, whereas the guy in service does not have any of those kind of expenses. Yes, he might have some other kind of expenses, but he need not worry so much about being liquid. He can always take a credit card loan or a company loan, or because he's got a salary, he'll perhaps get loans more easily. So again, to repeat, 4 or 5 things. First is publicly available assets, which means equity, debt, and mutual funds, ULIPs, and the peer-to-peer lending, all those kind of things in category 1. Second, of course, is own private practice. Third is real estate, and fourth is options like venture capital funding. So should a doctor do any venture capital funding? The answer is yes, but at a later stage in life, maybe he's 55, 60, and he's got enough money to risk, right? So then he should go into category 4. Otherwise, largely most doctors remain in category 1, where they are investing in mutual funds, take the help of an advisor. And now we come to the 5th part, which is the financial management of a doctor, which includes his practice, his accounting, his filing of returns, his asset allocation, his costs, etc. He should concentrate on those things. He should not concentrate on which mutual fund to buy, which equity share to buy. That is not his forte. He should broadly give guidelines to his financial advisor, saying over 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, I will not require this money. These are the risks in my life, and that has to be covered in terms of medical insurance, malpractice insurance, some kind of a pension planning, right? So these kind of things of living too long, therefore you need a pension, dying too early, so you need term insurance. If your parents have paid the fees, obviously they should be the beneficiaries. If you have borrowed, again it would have been guaranteed by your father, because big loans are not available just based on your admission. So then your father should be the nominee. Knowing all these things is part of your wealth management for doctors. You need to understand all this, and after you understand all this, sit with your financial advisor, decide to do all these actions, and make sure that you maintain some notebooks, write down what your advisor says, see what logic he is using. Over 7 years, 8 years, maybe you will learn how to manage it yourself. But stage 1 of your life, when you are starting out, don't try something very foolish. Maybe you have less money to lose, but you have something far more precious to lose, that is time. Don't spend years 32 to 40 learning how to invest and things like that, and 40 going and getting an advisor. Getting an advisor is always a good idea, whatever be the age, but the earlier you get, the earlier you understand the power of compounding, you start investing, and that's the way to go. You also need to understand that with advisors there could be a conflict of interest, so it's very unlikely that an advisor advises you to invest more in your own learning and your own private practice, right? So he may not. Also understanding that your own place of work investment is far more important than buying your house. We normally do it the reverse. We go and first buy a house because we need to get married. I don't think that makes sense. Live in a rented house, but have you own your own place of work, because as a doctor you're more likely to be known as a doctor practicing there. None of your patients really want to know where you live. It's completely incidental to for them. But if you have to keep changing your location of work, that is far more damaging for your practice. So buy your place of work, but stay in a rented place. You can always buy your own place to stay once you have enough money, and you don't have to borrow for doing that. So this whole gamut of knowing where to invest, how to invest, how much in each asset class, how to file returns, how to cover risk, all this is doctors' wealth management and portfolio management. Thank you.